For millennia, the tale has captivated us.
A warrior king, cursed by the gods, embarks on a 10-year odyssey across perilous seas, facing mythical beasts and sorceresses, all to return home. Homer's Odyssey is a cornerstone of Western literature, a narrative of resilience, cunning, and the enduring human spirit.
But beneath the layers of poetic myth and divine intervention, could there be a deeper truth? An echo of a world long lost, a forgotten chapter of history woven into the fabric of legend? What if Odysseus wasn't just a character of fiction, but a reflection of a real-world figure? What if the monstrous Cyclops, the enchanting sirens, the terrifying whirlpool of Charybdis, were born from the natural dangers and awe-inspiring landscapes of an ancient Mediterranean? For centuries, scholars dismissed the epic as pure fantasy. Yet, a growing body of evidence, unearthed from beneath layers of earth and sea, suggests a tantalizing connection to a powerful, complex civilization, a world that once thrived before a catastrophic collapse. This journey will take us back, far beyond the classical age of Greece, to the crucible of the Late Bronze Age. It's a period shrouded in both grandeur and mystery, an era of mighty kingdoms, vast trade networks, and brutal warfare. We'll consult the spade of the archaeologist, the maps of ancient geographers, and the surviving fragments of history to piece together a narrative far more complex than any single myth. Our quest, to investigate how modern scholarship reveals the real-world foundations of Homer's epic. To separate history from the heroic tale. Our story begins not in Ithaca, but on the sun-baked plains of mainland Greece, with the civilization that Homer himself called the Achaeans. These were the Mycenaeans. A civilization of formidable warriors and sophisticated administrators, they dominated the Aegean from roughly 1600 to 1100 BCE. Their palatial centers, like Mycenae itself, Tiryns, and Pylos, were not mere cities but fortified strongholds, testament to a martial culture and immense wealth. These were the people who, according to Homer, sailed to Troy. The Mycenaeans were organized into a network of independent kingdoms, each ruled by a powerful king, or wanax. We know this from their unique linear B script, deciphered in the 1950s, which primarily recorded administrative and economic information. These tablets paint a picture of highly centralized economies, managing everything from agricultural output to bronze production, even detailed inventories of chariots and weaponry. It was a hierarchical society, geared for both trade and, crucially, for war. A formidable force. The sheer opulence of Mycenaean culture, particularly the gold artifacts discovered in shaft graves, speaks volumes about their power and connections. Gold masks, ornate weaponry, and intricate jewelry suggest a society plugged into vast trade networks spanning the Mediterranean. They exchanged goods with Egypt, the Near East, and other Aegean cultures. This wealth, this power, this ability to mobilize resources, provides a crucial backdrop for understanding how a grand expedition, like the one to Troy, could have been conceived and executed. According to Homer, the leader of the Achaean forces against Troy was Agamemnon, king of Mycenae. While no direct archaeological evidence confirms Agamemnon himself, the grandeur of Mycenae and the discovery of the famous Mask of Agamemnon by Heinrich Schliemann, even if misattributed, cemented the idea that such powerful kings indeed existed in this formidable fortress. The literary figure of Agamemnon finds a plausible home within the very real, very powerful Mycenaean world. A civilization capable of assembling a grand fleet. The catalyst for Odysseus's long journey, of course, was the Trojan War. For centuries, the tale of Helen, Paris, Achilles, and Hector was considered pure legend. A heroic poem, nothing more. But the excavation of Hizarlik in modern-day Turkey, traditionally identified as the site of ancient Troy, dramatically shifted perspectives. Could there have been a real conflict, a historical event that inspired Homer's epic? One massive enough to warrant the participation of kings from across the Mycenaean world? Archaeological digs at Hizarlik have revealed multiple layers of cities, built one upon another, spanning millennia. Among these, the layer designated Troy VIA stands out. Dated to roughly 1250 BCE, it shows clear evidence of a violent destruction, burnt layers, scattered arrowheads, and unburied human remains. This timing aligns remarkably well with ancient chronologies for the Trojan War. While not definitive proof of Homer's epic, it strongly suggests a significant conflict occurred here, a siege, a battle, around the time the Mycenaeans were at their peak. Further tantalizing clues come from the archives of the Hittite Empire, a major power in ancient Anatolia. Their diplomatic correspondence mentions a region called Walusa, strikingly similar to the Greek Ilion, another name for Troy. These texts speak of conflicts and treaties involving Walusa and a powerful western kingdom referred to as Achaea, widely believed to be the Mycenaeans, or Achaeans. These diplomatic records lend concrete historical weight to the idea of interactions, and likely conflicts, between Mycenaeans and the inhabitants of Troy. The combination of archaeological destruction at Troy via and the Hittite references points not to myth, but to history. A conflict, perhaps not of 10 years or involving divine intervention, but a real, brutal struggle for control or resources at a strategic location. The sheer scale and devastation hinted at by the archaeological record would have been etched into the collective memory of the survivors, passed down through generations. A seed of historical truth, fertile ground for an epic poem. The stage is set for Odysseus's arduous journey. With Troy fallen, Odysseus, like so many other Achaean heroes, began his long-anticipated journey home. But his, as we know, was no ordinary return. It became a 10-year odyssey, fraught with unimaginable perils. Was this extended suffering merely a literary device, or did it reflect the actual difficulties and dangers of maritime travel in the late Bronze Age? And what of the places he visited, the fantastic islands and monstrous inhabitants? Could they too be echoes of real-world locations, transformed by fear, awe, and generations of storytelling? To understand Odysseus's journey, we must first understand the capabilities of Bronze Age mariners. These were not primitive rafts. The Mycenaeans and other Aegean cultures were accomplished seafarers. They navigated by stars and landmarks, possessed advanced shipbuilding techniques, and engaged in extensive trade across vast stretches of the Mediterranean. Their vessels, powered by both sail and oar, were robust enough for significant voyages, but still vulnerable to the whims of nature. A crucial context for the Odyssey's nautical exploits. Perhaps the most compelling evidence for the sophistication and scale of Bronze Age seafaring is the Uluburun shipwreck. Discovered off the coast of Turkey in 1982, this vessel sank around 1300 BCE. Its cargo was staggering: over 10 tons of copper ingots, 1 ton of tin ingots, exotic wood, ivory, amber, glass, pottery from across the Aegean and Near East, and even a gold scarab of Nefertiti. This single wreck represents an international trade network stretching from Scandinavia to Egypt, a floating testament to the interconnected world of the Late Bronze Age. The Uluburun wreck is not just a ship, it's a snapshot of a vibrant, globalized ancient economy. It proves that long-distance voyages, carrying immense and diverse cargoes, were commonplace. Sailors navigated dangerous waters, encountering people from different cultures, exchanging goods, ideas, and perhaps even stories. If a merchant vessel could undertake such a journey, then a determined warrior like Odysseus, even with a depleted crew, certainly possessed the means and knowledge to attempt a return voyage across similar seas. The scope of his travels becomes remarkably plausible. But capability does not equate to safety. The Mediterranean, while a cradle of civilization, could be a tempestuous mistress. Sudden storms, strong currents, hidden rocks, and piracy were constant threats. Odysseus's 10-year journey, with its countless misfortunes, could very well be an exaggerated reflection of the very real hazards faced by ancient mariners. A journey that would take a mere few weeks today could, in the Bronze Age, stretch into months or even years if one encountered the full wrath of Poseidon, or simply, the unpredictable forces of nature. Odysseus's itinerary includes some truly bizarre destinations. The land of the Cyclops, the island of Circe, the perilous passage between Scylla and Charybdis, the allure of the Sirens. These fantastical places have long been dismissed as purely mythological constructs. Yet, scholars and geographers have spent centuries attempting to map Odysseus's wanderings onto the real geography of the Mediterranean. Could these monstrous locales be rooted in actual geographical features, natural phenomena, or isolated communities, transformed by the power of oral tradition?
Consider the Symplegades, the clashing rocks or wandering rocks, which would smash any ship attempting to pass between them.
While undoubtedly exaggerated, this mythological danger could be inspired by very real, localized phenomena.
Perhaps treacherous volcanic activity causing shifting landmasses, or strong, converging currents in narrow straits, creating the illusion of moving rocks and making navigation incredibly perilous.
The dramatic geological forces shaping the Mediterranean could easily inspire such fearsome legends.
The land of the monstrous, one-eyed Cyclopes has often been associated with Sicily.
The volcanic landscapes, particularly Mount Etna, and the presence of ancient, monumental architecture built with massive stones, Cyclopean masonry, could have fueled the legends of giant builders. Furthermore, isolated communities of shepherds in remote regions, perhaps unfamiliar with outsiders, might have been perceived as savage or monstrous by shipwrecked sailors. A single eye? Perhaps a local custom, or simply a poetic flourish transforming a menacing figure into something utterly alien.
The infamous straits guarded by Scylla, a six-headed monster, and Charybdis, a deadly whirlpool, are often identified with the Strait of Messina between Sicily and mainland Italy. This narrow channel is known for its exceptionally strong, unpredictable currents and treacherous waters, which even today can be challenging for ships. For ancient mariners and smaller vessels, these currents would have been truly terrifying, easily capable of capsizing ships or dashing them against rocks.
The monsters become metaphors for the sheer, unforgiving power of the sea.
The sirens, with their irresistible song leading sailors to their doom, are another iconic image.
Geographically, their island is often placed in the Tyrrhenian Sea, near the Amalfi coast.
This rugged coastline, with its sea caves and echoing cliffs, could easily have produced haunting sounds carried on the wind, natural acoustics transformed by frightened, superstitious sailors into the voices of supernatural beings. The temptation of a safe harbor, combined with unseen dangers, becomes the mythical lure of the sirens.
The nymph Calypso's island of Ogygia, where Odysseus was held captive for 7 years, is described as a remote and isolated paradise.
Many locations have been proposed, from islands in the Ionian Sea to even Gibraltar, but no definitive archaeological or geographical match exists. Its very remoteness and lush, untouched beauty likely reflect the ancient fear and wonder of the unknown, of places so far removed from civilization that time seemed to slow, or even stop.
A perfect place for a hero to be forgotten.
Circe's island of Aea, where men were turned into swine, is often speculatively placed off the coast of Italy, perhaps the rocky promontory of Monte Circeo.
This location, with its dramatic cliffs and fertile lands, matches some descriptions.
The magical transformation could be a metaphor for the intoxicating dangers of unfamiliar foods, local flora with narcotic properties, or simply the moral corruption of men away from home. The tales of ancient pharmacology, mixed with fear of the foreign, become the sorcery of Circe.
After all the trials and wanderings, Odysseus's ultimate goal was always his home, the island of Ithaca.
Homer's vivid descriptions of Ithaca are central to the epic, a rugged, western island, with a famous harbor, a mountain, and a view towards other islands like Same, modern Cephalonia, and Dulichium.
But does the modern-day island of Ithaca, identified as such for thousands of years, truly match Homer's geography?
This question has ignited centuries of debate and intense archaeological investigation. Homer describes Ithaca as being low-lying and farthest to the west of a cluster of islands, with a rugged, steep terrain in parts, yet good for goats.
Crucially, he mentions a distinct harbor and landmarks such as the Raven Spring and the Cave of the Nymphs. The issue is that the modern island of Ithaca, while undoubtedly beautiful, doesn't perfectly align with every detail in Homer's poetic account. The term low-lying in particular seems at odds with its generally mountainous landscape. Is this poetic license, or a clue? One critical factor often overlooked is the dynamic nature of geology. Over 3,000 years, islands shift. Earthquakes, tsunamis, and erosion can dramatically alter coastlines and even landmasses. What was true of the Ionian Islands in the Bronze Age might not be true today. This opens the door to alternative theories, suggesting that Homer's Ithaca might not be the island we currently call Ithaca,
but perhaps a different, geographically transformed location within the same island group. One of the most compelling alternative theories was proposed by Robert Biddlestone, suggesting that Homer's Ithaca is actually the Peliki Peninsula of Cephalonia, the much larger island directly west of modern Ithaca. His theory posits that a narrow, now silted-up coastal canal once separated Peliki from the rest of Cephalonia, making it a distinct island, farthest to the west.
This geological anomaly, combined with a detailed analysis of Homer's text, presents a radical reinterpretation of the epic's geographical setting.
Biddlestone's theory relies heavily on geological evidence suggesting that what is now a low-lying isthmus connecting Peliki to Cephalonia was, in the Bronze Age, a marine channel. Over millennia, seismic activity and sedimentation gradually filled this channel, creating the current land bridge. If true, this would mean the Peliki Peninsula perfectly fits Homer's description of a separate, low-lying island to the west, with its own natural harbor and mountainous interior. Archaeological digs have begun to test this audacious hypothesis, seeking physical proof of this lost channel. The search for Odysseus's palace on modern Ithaca has yielded fascinating, but ultimately inconclusive, Bronze Age finds.
However, the Biddlestone hypothesis refocuses the search onto Peliki. If his theory is correct, a major Mycenaean center should exist there, one that matches the scale and features of the palace described in the Odyssey. While excavations continue, a definitive palace of Odysseus has yet to be unearthed in either location, keeping the mystery of his true home alive. The definitive proof remains elusive. Odysseus's journey home wasn't just a physical struggle, it was set against the backdrop of one of history's most profound and mysterious periods, the Bronze Age collapse. Around 1200 BCE, the interconnected world of the Mycenaeans, Hittites, Egyptians, and others was violently shattered. Palaces burned, cities were abandoned, trade networks collapsed, and entire civilizations vanished.
This great catastrophe would have plunged the Aegean and Near East into a dark age, making Odysseus's return to a stable, familiar home incredibly difficult, perhaps impossible.
The causes of this widespread collapse are debated, but likely included a perfect storm of factors: climate change leading to widespread drought and famine, internal revolts and migrations, and perhaps most famously, the enigmatic Sea Peoples. These marauding groups are documented in Egyptian records as invading from the north, laying waste to coastal cities. The sophisticated, centralized palace systems of the Mycenaeans proved brittle in the face of such multifaceted pressures, leading to a domino effect of destruction. So, if Odysseus returned at the tail end of the Trojan War, he would not have come back to the thriving, stable Mycenaean kingdom he left. Instead, he would have found a world in chaos. Coastal areas devastated, former allies gone, trade routes disrupted, and the very concept of a unified Achaean power dissolved. His struggle to reclaim his throne and family, described as a battle against suitors, takes on a new, darker meaning. It becomes a battle to restore order in a world utterly unmoored by cataclysm. The events of the Bronze Age collapse, the Trojan War, and the struggles of returning heroes would have been vivid and traumatic. These stories would have been passed down through generations, transformed and embellished by countless bards. Over centuries, real people became legendary figures, real places became fantastical realms, and real dangers became monstrous gods and beasts. The Odyssey, therefore, is not a historical document, but a powerful echo of a historical period, distilled through the filters of memory, poetry, and oral tradition. We can never truly separate the threads of fact and fiction in the Odyssey with absolute certainty. The beauty of the epic lies precisely in this ambiguity. Yet, modern archaeology, careful historical analysis of the Bronze Age, and a deeper understanding of ancient geography allow us to see the powerful real-world foundations that underpin the myth. The Mycenaean civilization provides the warriors and the ships. Troy Via offers the evidence of a devastating conflict. The Uluburun shipwreck showcases the daring of Bronze Age mariners. The terrifying journey through Scylla and Charybdis, the allure of the sirens, the isolation of Calypso's island, all can be interpreted as the collective memory of treacherous waters, dangerous coastlines, and the vast, unknown expanses of the ancient Mediterranean. The Bronze Age collapse provides the cataclysmic backdrop, explaining the utter disorientation and struggle upon return.
Odysseus's personal saga becomes a microcosm of an entire civilization's fight for survival and identity in a newly shattered world. The Odyssey is more than just an entertaining story, it's a profound testament to the human experience of exploration, suffering, and homecoming, forged in the crucible of a transformative historical era. It reminds us that even the grandest myths often contain fragments of our shared past, echoes of real places, real people, and real struggles.
A journey through a landscape that was both real and imagined, an epic born from history, sculpted by generations of human imagination. And in its enduring power, it connects us directly to the distant Bronze Age. The Odyssey isn't simply a collection of fantastical tales, it's a monumental achievement of oral tradition, preserving fragmented memories of a lost era. It offers us a unique window into the psyche of Bronze Age people, their fears, their triumphs, and their understanding of a volatile world. By piecing together archaeological finds, ancient texts, and geographical insights, we don't diminish the magic of Homer's epic. Instead, we deepen our appreciation for it, revealing the very real earth and sea upon which its immortal story was built. The echoes of a real world, whispering through the ages.